Hello friends, welcome to Technique. This is Nirmal here, and in this video we're going to do the detailed camera review of the Moto X4. So Moto X4 is a mid-range premium smartphone announced by Moto in India, and this comes again with a dual camera setup. And this device also comes with a 16 megapixel selfie camera, so there is an emphasis for selfies. So in this video we'll talk about the camera aspects of this phone, how good the camera experience is, and we'll also see the photos taken with the device in different light conditions. So without any further delay, let's get started. So first step, let's have a look at the camera optics. So we have a dual camera system. On the rear panel we have a primary 12 megapixel camera, which is a normal regular camera with f-stop 2.0, and we have an 8 megapixel secondary camera. It's a 120 degree wide angle camera, and it has f-stop 2.2. So we have seen two types of dual camera implementation. One is with RGB and monochrome sensor, what we have seen on Honor devices, and second is the optical zoom, that's a telephoto lens, which we have seen on the Mi A1, the OnePlus 5 and also iPhones. But here Moto employs a different kind of setup. We have the primary camera for the regular photos and the secondary camera for ultra wide landscape shots. So the Moto claims that if you want to take a lot of landscape shots, you don't have to use the panorama mode. Instead, this secondary 8 megapixel wide angle camera does that job for you. And when you take depth enabled mode photos, both the cameras work in tandem, and it produces those depth enabled by measuring the distance to the object. So that's how the depth enabled mode works on this device. Now on the front panel we have a 16 megapixel shooter with f-stop 2.0 aperture and LED flash as well, and this is one of those selfie focused smartphones from Moto. Now let's have a look at the interface. So here we can see that the typical Moto interface which we have seen, and when you take photos you can see there is a slight lag in saving the photos at times, and when you click the modes you can see there are spot color mode, professional, depth enable mode, panorama and photos. The spot color mode, what it does is when you select the mode you can pick the color which you want on this device. You can see here pick the color, and rest all will turn black and white. So that's the spot color mode, and you can select how much you want to have in this device. So that's the spot enable mode. It does work quite well, but if the image is complex, then that's where that doesn't work that well. Now here you can see timer mode, flash and a auto HDR, and at the bottom you get two options. One is the regular photos, and second is the wide angle photos. So you can see this is the regular photos, and here you can see the wide angle camera. So these are the two options. You can see how it works. So when you select the wide angle camera, it will be switched to the 8 megapixel shooter. Now here we have the selfie mode, and let's go to the settings as well. So you can see that the video recording is at 4K, that's 30 fps, full HD at 1080p resolution at 60 fps, and 30 fps is also supported, but EIS works only with 1080p resolution at 30 fps. So that's the camera interface. Now let's go straight. Now let's talk about the daylight captures taken with this device. So in well lit conditions or daylight conditions, the X4 is capable of taking detailed and well balanced photos. The colors were pretty good, and the overall clarity also looked good, but what was missing was the sharpness levels could have been a tad better, especially for a phone priced 20k above. The sharpness levels was not that good, and at times you could see the edges of the photos becoming blurry, and also sometimes the photos tend to be a bit overexposed in nature, and that's one of the issues we face with the Moto X4 in daylight conditions. The wide angle camera did well, but then it produced a fisheye kind of image effect. That's not that great when you take wide angle landscape images, and also the sharpness levels of the 8 megapixel camera was kind of pretty much average in nature. So daylight captures, the results were quite good, but then it's not definitely the best for a phone priced above 20,000 in India. Also, the Moto X4's dynamic range HDR mode was not that great, and it was a hit and miss affair. And we can say that if you go to the manual mode, that's where you could get slightly better shots, tweaking the exposure and white balance in the manual mode, or rather the professional mode, and we could see that the sharpness levels was not that great, and at times focusing close-up images did have an issue, and we had to manually tap to focus it. And also when we take the images, a slight shake of the camera could result in a shaky images, and overall the clarity was lost due to this reason. So overall we would say that the camera was a kind of hit and miss affair, not really that great in terms of the daylight captures. And here you could see some samples where we found that the sharpness levels was not that impressive when you compare with the Moto G5s Plus and also the Xiaomi's Mi A1. So Moto X4 also uses the two cameras to achieve an enhanced bokeh effect, which is also called as the depth enabled mode. We have seen this depth enabled mode in the Moto G5s Plus and also Lenovo's K8 Note as well. While you can adjust the strength of the effect using a manual slider, the results with the depth enabled mode was kind of inconsistent, and it was over aggressive in blurring the parts of subject with the background, and as a result the bokeh mode was kind of unnatural and did not produce a really good result overall, and also the edges was not really perfect. So Motorola needs to improve on this depth enabled mode. Now next up, let's talk about the low light performance of this device. So again, low light performance was kind of inconsistent. We would say that in good well lit conditions, or rather artificial light conditions, it did take some good results, but then when light drops a bit, you could see noise creeping in and not the best results we would have expected a phone priced above 20,000. It's slightly priced above the mid-range category. 20 to 25k is a segment which needs a better camera than the Moto X4. So that was the low light performance of. Overall, we were not really satisfied with the low light performance offered by the Moto X4. So in well lit conditions, it was kind of okay, but when the light drops in, there was a lot of noise creeping in the X4 photos, and also the sharpness levels was not that good. So right now we are recording using the rear camera at 1080p resolution. It supports 1080p at 30 fps and also 60 fps. So the electronic image stabilization is included only for recording videos at 1080p at 30 fps, and in 60 fps there is no electronic image stabilization. There is also support for 4K. Now next up, let's talk about the selfie experience. So this phone comes with a 16 megapixel selfie camera, and this is an improvement over the Moto G5s Plus, and here you could see that the selfies turned out to be really good. Great sharpness, great detailing, and overall clarity also looked pretty good. So if you're looking for a selfie focused smartphone in the 20 to 25k price segment, this is definitely one good selfie camera out there, but it does not have those kind of blurring effects or depth enabled mode in the selfie camera, or rather the portrait images or the bokeh mode in the selfie camera, but it does a decent job altogether in terms of the selfie experience, and good color reproduction, great detailing, and overall clarity of the selfies looks pretty good. Now the phone also comes with a selfie flash for low light selfies, but again the low light selfies turned out to be a bit noisy, and we need to capture the image pretty solidly, because a shake of the phone would result in a blurry selfie. So that's one issue with the low light selfies. So if you are taking low light selfies, you better turn on the selfie flash. It produces some better results than the regular selfies in low light. So overall the selfie experience was definitely good, and if you are looking for a selfie focused smartphone, the Moto X4 is definitely a phone to consider buying. So this video has been shot using the front facing camera on the Moto X4. It is a 16 megapixel shooter capable of full HD video recording, that's 1080p at 30 fps. So we are taking this video outdoor, and you can judge yourself how good the quality is and how good the audio output is from the front facing camera. So this also comes with an LED flash capable of taking low light selfies, and this is one of the selfie focused smartphones from Motorola. So now summing up, how good is the Moto X4 camera for a price of about 20,000? So we would say it was an inconsistent performer in this price segment. It can produce some really good results in daylight conditions, but at the same time it is a tricky thing. It might go inconsistent with the shots as well. So Moto needs to improve on that, and we would have we feel that Moto should have employed the telephoto lens instead of the wide angle lens, which was more or less unusable because of the fisheye mode, and also not many you would use that mode in real time. So that is one issue we faced, and the focusing was kind of an issue. The low light captures with good artificial lighting was pretty good, but then again it was kind of noisy when light drops in. The portrait mode again was kind of inconsistent with too much blurring, and the edges were not that great. Overall, the clarity of the selfies looks really good. So overall, we feel this is definitely a disappointing camera from Moto, especially when you talk about the Moto G5s Plus, which is having a pretty good camera in the sub 20k price segment. We would have expected Moto to ship a slightly better camera performer in this price segment. So Moto X4 is definitely not an upgrade over the Moto G5s Plus in terms of the camera performance, but it is an upgrade in terms of the processor and also looks. But if you're looking for a camera smartphone, Moto G5s Plus and also the Xiaomi Mi A1 we feel is a better choice than the Moto X4. So we will be comparing Moto X4 with the Xiaomi Mi A1 as well as the Moto G5s Plus in terms of the camera performance. So stay tuned for those videos. So this was the detailed and full review of the camera on the Moto X4. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Do hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in our next video. Have a great day.